So we've got our Stihl KM56RC here on the table. This is a little combi unit we use around the farm. You basically can put attachments on it and swap them out. What happened was the other day I was out working in the trails and I was using the hedge trimmer attachment, and I was working it pretty hard, and it basically made a pop sound. And after that, it just will not operate any attachments. So you know, I looked at our attachments just to make sure that, you know, I didn't break the attachment, and they seem to be spinning fine. You know, I looked up in here just to make sure there was nothing going on in there, and I don't see anything. I'm guessing something in here popped, because when it runs, I hear it spinning. And when you look at the attachment side of it, it's like basically not spinning fully with the sound I hear. So it's almost like whatever's in there, you know, is separated and it's spinning, and then just kind of hitting this here and there and just spinning it a little bit is kind of what I'm guessing is happening. So I'm going to try to take this apart and see what we can come up with. I haven't really worked on these things too much, but it seems pretty easy. I've got our little tool here that came with our equipment. It looks like I can just pop off these two screws here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to get these three, but you know, we'll check when we get there. I don't see anything on the top side, so let's get at this and kind of just see where it goes. I'm hoping this is a pretty easy fix, but you know how that goes. So it's looking like these pieces might slide in here, and then when this clamps, it tightens down on that. So we're going to go ahead and pop these three out. The front two screws appear to be the same size, so it doesn't seem like you can mix those up. This screw's not wanting to come out. Let's see if a magnet will pull it out. Oh, we still have a little bit of threads. Alright, so all the screws at this point appear to be the same size. And it looks like we're going to have to go a little further. So we're still not coming off here. See, our filter's pretty gubbed up. And we put this thing to work, so might make sense if this screw is the last one kind of pushing down on that cover. And that one is a different size on this top side. Alright, so there we go, that comes off. I'm just going to stick this bolt down in here just so I don't lose track. Okay, so you can see this looks like the clutch. I don't know much about these things. And you can see I'm spinning it and it's not spinning, so we definitely broke something in here. Yep, there we are. This might, I don't want to jinx it, I'm going to knock on wood, but this might be somewhat of an easy install. It looks like, yeah, this just presses into here, which it's got squared edges here to where that grabs, spins this, and then I'm assuming this other side here is the same. So let's see. I don't know how this comes off. You would think this would just pull right out. Okay. That's loose. Let's go ahead and pull these off just to make it easier to look at. Okay, why aren't we coming off? I don't see any hole. I don't see any like clips, anything here. Only thing that makes sense is this might press off. Let's go run. I've got the parts store is going to close at 2. And we're like at 12, so I'm going to go ahead and run. I know what part I need. I need this piece right here. I'm going to go ahead and run down there, get parts. The new part should give me a better idea of how to get this piece off. I'm sure it's something stupid I'm just overlooking, but we're going to figure it out. Alright, so we're back at it on our combi here. I got our parts in. I went ahead and ordered a spare. And I'll post the part number if anybody's interested, if you can't see that. But basically I called around trying to find anybody with one of these in stock, and no one had anything. So they were $13.99 a piece. So I went ahead and ordered a spare just so if I have a problem again, I don't run into this. So yeah, after looking at this a bit, I've realized I've kind of overthought this whole thing. First was, if you're having to do what we're doing here, it really looks like you can just pull this screw out right here and maybe loosen these two, because they might be clamping on this pipe right here. Because if you look, so what you have happen here is there's a hole right here, which you can see it's kind of wallowing out. I assume that's just from taking the handle and kind of working it. But this goes in like this, and this middle screw goes through there and basically holds this in place. And then these two front bolts here, you've got this holding it in place, and then the two front pieces here clamping down on it. And I'm sure maybe a little bit of this clamping down, so you could probably just loosen these and then completely undo this one, slide it out. And so what you'll get then, you'll get your pipe out like this. I've loosened this up, which you don't have to do. Yeah, what happens is you have this piece on the end. This is the attachment side. So this is in like this, right? This is here on your end, which is how you clamp your attachments on. If you look, that's got a notch to line up with this. And so what happens is when this piece right here is what holds this piece on. So you can basically, of course I can't get it off now. And I've got a flathead here. You don't want to probably pry too much, and break anything. But you can see I'm just kind of working my way around. And that'll just come off. And so this is what you get. This is your end piece, which it's kind of what we expected here. This has these straight edges that locks into there, which locks in, this side locks in up here, and then that's what turns your attachment. So yeah, so basically this, what I mean, what I was getting at is this just presses in, then this on here has a stop, which is what prevents this from coming out at all. So, if I was to do it, I'd probably just go ahead and take everything off, just because, I mean, it's not hard. This was not bad at all to do. To be honest, they seem to have made this pretty easy. So the one thing I'm curious about is if we're going to have issues winding this, which it doesn't seem like it. Getting this to make sure it lines up. Actually, let's slide it through here. There's like a little hole right here. If you can see inside the tube, there's like a little guide. So I'm going to slide it through there. And then what I'm going to do, and again, you want to make sure this is here. So when we reassemble, we want to make sure that that bolt lines up. And I'm just going to pull, make sure that's in. You can feel it not spinning there. And to be honest, it centers it pretty good with those guides. So yeah, this seems like they made this pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and pop this on, because once we clamp this on, this stuff's not going to want to, it's not going to be easy to put it back on. Alright, so our tab, another reference point is this right here should be on the top, which lines our hole here straight down. So let's now just pop this in. You can see there we're in. So let's go ahead and pop this back on. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. And I just lifted that kind of like an angle to clear that spark plug boot. There was a little tab over here I had to make sure was in. It looks as easy as that. I'm gonna go ahead and screw this one in. Just make sure when you're screwing these in, you know, because this plastic can shift around, that you don't feel any tension on these threads, or you'll strip something out for sure. Okay, so that worked out. We can spin, if anything, we can spin that so it'll support itself. I'm just taking a light through here, which that you can't really see anything, so I'm just going to make sure, taking a pick in here, just trying to make sure that that's lined up, which it seems like it is. So let's pop this one in first, because this is the one that holds our tube. You can see there that does not come out. Kind of spreading it out a little bit. Yeah, you can see there that it was super tight, and it was probably just from being clamped down so long, so I just took a flathead, spread that out a little bit, and then now we're all the way in. So let's tighten this. Alright, so I'm kind of cheating here with my table. Went ahead and set this on a wood block, so that way I know this would stay straight in here. I'm making sure that this is all the way back. And then I'm going to take our bolts. And how I'm cheating is I'm going to go through my holes here. And go ahead and tighten this down while this is flat. Get our other one in. Because it still had a little bit of wobble in it. Like, I don't want to say wobble, but you could slide it back and forth. And I'm going to tighten our handle kind of same way, so I know it's level. Because this is flat on the bottom. Alright, that's good. I'm going to double check this. That's good. Alright, so now we don't have any play. We should be where we was. Just making sure I like where the handle's at, which I do. Let's just pop these other 4 screws in and we'll be done. Just going to get all these lined up before I tighten them all down. Alright, let's just go ahead and check and make sure they're all tight. I wouldn't really crank them down, but I would get them tight. I'm sure there's a torque spec for it. It's really nice they made all the hardware the same. you know, and they give you the tool. All right, so here's our attachment that killed our drive shaft. This is some stuff I let grow. The weather's been pretty bad with rain all the time, and so I just need to really catch up on stuff, but we're gonna give this a test with that. Not that I would use this for this necessarily, but this would be a good way to test to make sure we're operating fine. Yep, it ain't got no gas in it. Okay, let's try this again. It didn't feel like it was pressurizing the bulb, so that's probably what it was. There we go. We seem to be working, if you've seen that. Let this thing warm up for a second. Again, not what I would use that for, but just give her a little test run. All right, she's cutting. So I think we're back in business. All right, we're gonna call that a wrap on this one. You know, I'm glad I was kind of worried about it. I've never really worked on these. I mean, I've done tune-ups, things like that, but, you know, I heard a pop and I thought it could have been bad, and I was half tempted to replace this thing for some reason, which was kind of stupid, but long story short, I'm glad I tore into it, because you could literally do this in 5-10 minutes, you know, and $15 in a part, and you're good to go. So hope you enjoyed this. Good luck to you, and have a good night. Hey girl, you watching Days?